Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Today I'm continuing my 2024 college football schedule preview where we go through 3 different team schedules and I kind of give an overview on how easy or hard these schedules are. Today we're taking a look at 3 SEC behemoths, Alabama, LSU, and Georgia. And we begin with the intriguing Alabama Crimson Tide, Nick Saban retiring. Just happened a few days ago. Bama, we'll take a look at their schedule. Now coming in to 2024, the new year, Bama was number 2 on the overall odds for the 2024 national title. That's going to change with Nick Saban retiring and Alabama possibly losing some players to the portal. We thought maybe Dan Lanning would be their next coach. Turns out he's staying at Oregon. But just taking a look at their schedule, you do have Western Kentucky to start and South Florida. That's a home and home with South Florida. Remember the weather delay game in week 3 with the game where Jalen Milroe didn't play? By the way, Alabama does return Jalen Milroe. Right now he's 3rd or 4th in terms of Heisman odds for 2024, but you would figure 2 very easy games. You've got an interesting matchup week 3 on the road in Camp Randall, probably a night game, maybe NBC, ESPN. That could be tough with a new coach. We'll see, but they do return their starting quarterback. Then they get an early off week. Every team gets 2 off weeks in 2024 or whatever you want to say, bye weeks. In the NFL, they say bye weeks, or you can just say they're idle. Either way, after the bye week, it's going to be a good bye week for Alabama. They get Georgia at home. So Bama, you get to rest, and you get that huge matchup with Georgia, whoever their new coach is. After that, you get at Vanderbilt. That's an easy win. South Carolina at home, you would expect a win. At Tennessee could be tough. Tennessee should be better next year with the young superstar quarterback Nico Lamanleva. Missouri at home, that's not going to be necessarily easy. They're returning a lot of talent. They finished top 10. They get another off week, and then they're at LSU. Another tough game at Tiger Stadium. That's never fun. LSU does lose Jaden Daniels, but they've got a completely revamped defense. Mercer at home. And then kind of a different schedule setup. Alabama has a game at Oklahoma. So Oklahoma joining the SEC, and then versus Auburn, the rivalry game that normally is very tough. Normally, Bama would face Mercer on the 23rd. The week before the rivalry, but that is a very hard schedule. Georgia at Tennessee, Missouri at LSU, at Oklahoma. It's a brutal schedule, man, with these 2 teams, Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC. It is going to be tough, and for Alabama, certainly without Nick Saban, they can still have a very good year. This is a team that could lose 3 games and very easily, comfortably make the playoff just based off of how hard this schedule is. That's just the nature of a 12-team playoff scenario. Next, we do have LSU. So LSU going into 2024, losing the Heisman winner, Jaden Daniels. We will see how they deal with that, especially considering the first game. It's a neutral site affair in Las Vegas, taking on USC. USC and LSU, very similar teams. They're replacing their star quarterbacks. They're trying to revamp poor defenses. Maybe a high-scoring game there facing USC and Miller Moss. That's a winnable game if you are LSU early in the season. Then they face Nichols at home. That's a guaranteed win. At South Carolina, you would expect a win there. UCLA, another non-conference game. So LSU with a tough non-conference schedule. They have 2 legit Power 5 teams, but they get UCLA at home. We would expect a win there. UCLA's not terrible, but I would be very surprised if they went into Tiger Stadium and won. Then again, we don't know how good LSU is going to be on offense next year, losing some of their top receivers. South Alabama, that's an easy win, and then you get your first bye week. They get Ole Miss at home. So that's a very zesty matchup if you are LSU facing Ole Miss at home. Ole Miss is a solid team. Don't get me wrong. They return a lot. They got a lot in the portal. But LSU might be favorites in that game, or it'll be close either way. That's a winnable game if you are LSU. At Arkansas, you would figure that's a win. At Texas A&M, that game's very annoying if I'm LSU. Kyle Field, that's not a fun place to play. And A&M is always going to have a talented roster just based on their NIL situation, although they have lost a lot of talent this offseason. They get another off week, and then they get Alabama at home after the bye week, so they can utilize that bye week rest, then face Alabama. Then they're at Florida, kind of a rare matchup there. Vanderbilt at home, and then Oklahoma at home. So the SEC, man, these are meat grinder schedules. A USC neutral site game, Ole Miss at home, at Texas A&M, Alabama at home, Oklahoma at home. They're not easy schedules, but LSU, it all depends on their quarterback situation and also how much they've improved on defense. They're always going to have a ridiculously talented roster. We'll see, though. I will say LSU has a crazy good 2025 recruiting class. They've only got like a few commits, but they have a really good start to their 2025 class. Not that it matters too much because kids flip all the time now, and 2025 is a ways away. But either way, another tough schedule there. Moving on to Georgia. So Georgia right now is the current favorite to win the 2024 national championship. Not surprising considering they returned Carson Beck. They were, I would say, clearly one of the top 4 teams this past year. They didn't make the playoff just because they lost the last game. It is what it is. But they begin with Clemson in one of those, oh my God, another one of these games. Yeah, Georgia always plays these neutral site games in Atlanta, Georgia. So, yeah, that's a real neutral site game against Clemson. We would expect Georgia to be favorites in that one. Clemson has kind of fallen off. Although, who knows, maybe Clemson, Cade Klubnik possibly coming back with more experience. Maybe they'll put up a fight, but I would expect Georgia to win that one. Tennessee Tech, the Golden Eagles. You think Tennessee Tech's got a shot in that one on the road? Yeah, that's going to be ugly. At Kentucky, week 3. Kentucky's kind of a hard place to play, but that's a game I expect Georgia to pull away. They get a bye week, and then they're at Alabama, so they also get a bye week and then travel to Bama. Both of those teams are going to be rested. That is going to be a seismic regular season matchup that normally never happens. They are on the road, but if you are Georgia, you have to feel a little bit happy, at least with Nick Saban retired, going on the road at Bama. It should be slightly easier, especially depending on the attrition that happens to Alabama's roster. They get Auburn at home, very winnable. Mississippi State at home, another should be easy win. At Texas, that's going to be a very tough game for Georgia. So how about that? In the span of 4 weeks, you're at Alabama and you're at Texas. I'm not going to say Texas is overrated going into next year, but I don't know. I think we need to hold it a little bit on the Texas hype. I understand they returned Quinn Ewers. They made the playoff, but that was in the Big 12. That was not a tough conference. You're going to a much harder conference if you are Texas. It would not surprise me at all if Texas lost 3 games in the regular season because, remember, Texas also has to go to Michigan. Although, who knows, maybe that could be a good matchup for Texas if Michigan loses J.J. McCarthy and Jim Harbaugh. There's a lot of speculation we can have when it comes to these games because they are so far away. Another off week on the 26th. Then they face Florida in the world's biggest cocktail party. That is the neutral site game. I mean, Georgia seems to always win that game by 30 points. It's almost like an automatic at this point. And then they're at Ole Miss. That's another tough game. That'll be a huge game for Ole Miss at home. You get Tennessee at home. That's, very winnable. You would expect Georgia to win that game, obviously. UMass, that's a free win. And then their rivalry game with Georgia Tech, that is another free win. So definitely it seems like Georgia has the easiest schedule out of these 3 teams. Although I will say there's that really a 6-week stretch where they have 3 road games at Bama, at Texas, and at Ole Miss. Those are not, maybe LSU has an easier schedule, I don't know. It depends how good you think Clemson is going to be next year because they get them in a neutral site, non-conference game, although it is in Atlanta, Georgia, as opposed to LSU, they get USC, but they also have to face UCLA as well in the non-conference. Maybe LSU actually does have an easier schedule because they get Bama at home, Oklahoma at home. You're on the road, but it's at Texas A&M. You get Ole Miss at home. Yeah, it's a little bit more manageable of a home schedule compared to the road schedule for LSU, versus Georgia. But Alabama's schedule next year, it is very brutal. You're talking about at LSU, at Oklahoma, at Tennessee, Georgia. It is a very hard schedule. But at this point, that's what we can expect with the SEC, especially if you're scheduling a hard out-of-conference game, like Georgia, like LSU. And then you get into conference play and you face Texas or Oklahoma. You add one of those teams. It is almost a gauntlet. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.